And in this video, we're talking about Star Trek Picard, of course, and Dominion after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and we know what this episode was about. The Titan was poised in scrapyards, hiding from Starfleet and hiding from Vadic, and eventually decide that they have to come to some kind of way to deal directly with Vadic and set a trap. And the trap is sprung, and Vadic is captured. Now, it doesn't all go right, and we'll talk about this further on. But for the moment, let's say something about adversaries in Trek. When they started out in the original series, they had the Romulans, which were kind of like Romans, and the idea was that they were militarized and efficient at doing so. Gene Kuhn came in and said that the Klingons would be a much better enemy because they were kind of Huns. They weren't really that civilized. They were considered to be just mean people. And then changed it up to a point, creating the Organian Peace Treaty. And what had to happen here was that the Klingons and the Federation were always at odds, kind of like a parallel for the U.S. and the Soviet Union of the time. Everybody else that they encountered who might be seen as an enemy always had another side, had always had their side of the argument, and especially in the Next Generation. Anytime that they encountered another species, they found that they weren't just evil. They usually had some reason for doing what they did, some problem that they were trying to solve, some previous injustice that they're trying to even up for. And that's what we see here with Vadic. Vadic, in her capture, basically says, here's how we came to be. They explain the backstory on how the changelings became people who could imitate humans and also take longer before they had to turn back into fluid. And it was due to experimentation by the Federation. It's because of the virus that was introduced into the Dominion that caused terrible trouble. And while the official word was that Starfleet immediately gave the antidote, the actual case that wasn't well known was that they had voted against it, and the antidote actually was smuggled in, or they would not have happened. And they visit this somewhat in Beverly and Picard's discussion. It was talking about Borg, where their Borg Hugh came along the crew, and they were going to plant nanobots into him and then take it back to the collective, which would have destroyed the collective. And it was Beverly that came forward and said, this is genocide. Even for the Borg, do you want to just absolutely obliterate a species? While they are certainly a threat, at the same time, do you deal with that threat by completely eradicating them? And now they seem to have changed their mind about all of that. But the fact of the matter is that it's still brought up for discussion, and always in the early parts of it saying, well, let's just kill them all, and then that gets rid of the problem, or at least sweeps it under the rug. And while the early stages, Beverly is not being the conscience of the ship, but I have a feeling that somehow this fact that the changelings had some reason to do what they're doing speaks to how they're going to have to get out of this. They're not going to do it by fighting a war against them. They're going to have to do it by finding some kind of way of reaching an agreement, and that's what Next Generation Star Trek has always been about. So I believe that a very good ending for all of this when it comes about is just that, or at least the beginnings of just that. The interesting thing about Data and Lore, which once again is fighting it out, but they do speak to it somewhat in that that's the way humanity is. We're always fighting against our bad side. It would be so much easier if all I had to do, if I wanted something, was to go take it. But the civilized thing is that you pay for it first. And this kind of dichotomy did not exist in Data. Data was pretty much all good, and Lore was pretty much all bad. And in normal humans, there's both, and that is what makes us human. It's not if all you are good, you're going to be good. And what's so laudable about that? So Data being a part of Altan Sung, being a part of Lal, and specifically a part of Lore, will round out his character going forward, presumably. Now, they're still saying, or they said before this season began, that it's quite possible that one of the principal cast will die. And I'm thinking it's not going to be Data. At one time, Brent Spiner said he would not want to play Data again, but most of his reasoning was because Data was an unaging android, and how do you explain someone who gets old playing the part of someone who doesn't? And they seem to fix that by making this new android made partly with human elements, so it will naturally age. And that would seem to quell Brent Spiner's concern about that and make him want to continue playing the part. In fact, he said publicly recently that he would, if somebody's offering him an acting job, he's going to take it. And if it's Data they want, it's Data they'll get. So that's where we stand on all of that. An interesting, more introspective show than we've seen so far in this season, and it's looking good so far. I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to see next. So I'd like to know what you think about all of this. Please put it in the comments below, and of course subscribe if you've not done so before. And if you have, make sure that you do click the like button in order to keep our algorithm, the YouTube algorithm, in our favor. Things are starting to wrap down. Some of the other shows are wrapping down. We may take up another. I'm still I am still working on that, and we'll let you know what we're going to be doing. But we'll still have the classic original series. We'll still have the classic Doctor Who with Tom Baker reviews. And of course, once May rolls around, we're going to be back with the last season of Discovery. Shortly thereafter will be the last season, or the next season of Strange New Worlds, and then Lower Decks. So we're going to have a lot to talk about over the summer. So thank you for joining us, and until next time, don't go far.